This is Heliox, where evidence meets empathy. Independent, moderated, timely, deep, gentle, clinical, global, and community conversations about things that matter. Breathe easy, we go deep and lightly surface the big ideas. Imagine an economic system, not dreamed up by human thinkers or endless debates, but actually designed step by step by artificial intelligence. That's what we're diving into today. It's an economic blueprint crafted by two advanced AI agents. One was acting like, well, a kind of heterodox economist and historian.
And the other, like a systems designer, almost an anthropologist looking at the structures.
Yeah.
Really fascinating.
Exactly. And here's the really interesting part. When this brand new system was put to the test, right, 5 other AI models rated it higher on almost everything compared to, the economies we know. America's, China's, Germany's.
Which is pretty remarkable.
It is. So our mission on this deep dive is really to unpack this AI vision, to try and understand what, from its, let's say, unique perspective, could make it genuinely, better than what we already have.
It's just incredible, isn't it? Seeing AI collaborating like this, trying to tackle something so profoundly human, so complex, like an economic system. In this deep dive, it isn't just about the model itself. It's about what it reveals, maybe through that non-human lens, about what an economy really needs to do for people to flourish. I think you'll find some surprising insights here.
All right, let's get into it then. So the AI started, like any good problem solver would, right? Asking, what's actually broken in our current systems? And it identified 10 core systemic failures in both capitalism and socialism. First up was what it called the basic coordination problem.
Okay.
Capitalism, for all its issues, is actually pretty good at using price signals. If everyone suddenly wants, say, a new gadget, the price goes up. Producers know to make more. Simple enough.
Right, the invisible hand, sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the AI pointed out it consistently ignores these massive unpaid costs. Think about a factory polluting a river. The cost of that pollution, the damage, the health problems, it's not on the factory's books, is it?
No, it's externalized. Society pays. You pay.
Right. And there's this worrying trend the AI flagged, especially since the 80s. Financial markets growing way, way faster than the real economy.
Meaning money's chasing money, basically.
Yeah.
Speculation.
Instead of funding actual production, things we actually use.
Yeah. And on the flip side, you had socialism. It did reduce inequality, often drastically. But those central planners, they were just overwhelmed. How could they possibly make millions of decisions every day about what to make, where to send it?
Just too complex.
Way too complex. And what struck me about the AI's look at history was this. It didn't find one perfect system anywhere. Instead, the most successful, resilient societies, think medieval towns.
Oh.
They had markets, yes, but also guilds, family businesses, shared resources like commons. They were juggling multiple systems all at once.
So not one master system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is totally different from how we tend to think now. It seems humans naturally organize through these overlapping institutions. It's messy, but maybe it works better.
That's a really interesting point, that multi-institutional idea. But the AI found an even deeper design flaw, didn't it?
It did.
How both systems, capitalism and socialism, tend to force a single behavioral model across all kinds of social situations.
Yeah, explain that a bit.
Well, think about it. You might negotiate ruthlessly when you buy a car, right? Haggling hard.
Sure.
But you'd never do that sharing food with your family. It'd be bizarre.
Right, different context, different rules.
Exactly. And the AI noted traditional economies often work because they were context sensitive. People could shift between being competitive, cooperative, reciprocal, depending on who they were dealing with and why.
So it's not just about flawed institutions. It's about a flawed assumption about human behavior, that we can be managed by just one set of incentives.
Precisely. Assuming we're predictable little economic units?
Which leads straight into the next big problem, the time horizon mismatch. Markets optimized for quarterly profits, maybe a few years out, tops.
Yeah, the short-term focus.
But ecosystems, social systems, they operate on decades, centuries. Socialist planning was a bit better at long-term thinking, but still often tied to, 5-year plans or political cycles.
So neither really grappled with the long term.
Right. Neither system has a built-in way to make decisions that properly account for costs and benefits 30, 50, 100 years down the line.
It is, the AI said, we're literally eating our future.
That's a powerful way to put it. Depleting soils, draining aquifers, destabilizing the climate, because these vital resources are treated as either free inputs, there for the taking, or just acceptable side effects, externalities.
And connected to that, another failure, democratic economic participation, or the lack of it.
Yeah, who actually gets a say?
In capitalism, power tends to pool with capital owners.
Hmm.
In traditional socialism, with party officials. But the AI's point was stark. Most people spend half their waking lives in economic institutions, like their jobs,
Oh.
where they have basically zero voice in the major decisions that shape their work, their livelihoods, their communities.
That time mismatch connects to something even more fundamental too, doesn't it? The assumption baked into both systems.
Infinite growth.
Infinite growth on a finite planet, which, as the AA dryly notes, is mathematically impossible. And they both scale terribly.
How so?
Well, markets work okay locally,
Yeah.
but globally, massive coordination failures. Things, supply chains optimizing for pennies while ignoring human trafficking or ignoring cumulative carbon emissions.
So our global picture gets lost.
And socialist planning. It kind of worked in smaller, simpler, more homogenous places, but scale it up, add complexity. It became hugely inefficient, often dysfunctional. Neither system really cracked how to coordinate millions, billions of people while keeping human agency and connection intact.
And the last point on failures, technology.
Ah, yes.
Both systems just see tech as either a market opportunity or a planning challenge. They completely miss how it fundamentally reshapes society, relationships, power itself.
Yeah, it's not just a tool, it changes the game board.
Exactly. So the AI summary is pretty blunt. We're trying to run this incredibly complex 21st century world using operating systems designed for, the 19th or early 20th century.
Outdated institutional tech.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the diagnosis. Step 2 was asking, what is an economy fundamentally for? Getting back to first principles.
Right, beyond just producing stuff.
And the AI's core idea here is that an economy's fundamental purpose should be to enable every single person to develop their capabilities, their potential, and to contribute meaningfully to the collective well-being of society. Which means, yes, basic material security, food, shelter, healthcare, education. You need those.
The foundation.
But it doesn't stop there. It's also about things like meaningful work, feeling connected to others, having some autonomy over your own life.
And crucially, the AI added, the economy has to maintain the ecological foundations that make all human activity possible, not just for us now, but for future generations too.
So preserving the planet.
Absolutely. The core insight, I think, is that markets, planning, institutions, they're all just tools. The real goal, the ultimate purpose, is expanding human potential within planetary boundaries.
And the AI felt both capitalism and socialism kind of lost sight of that.
Yeah, it said they got distracted by ideological arguments about the means. Markets versus state control, instead staying focused on these ultimate ends.
Makes sense. So a successful economy, from this perspective, creates the conditions, material and social, for people to live dignified, purposeful lives while keeping the planet healthy.
And there were a couple more key elements the AI added. Preserving cultural diversity was one.
Interesting. Why that?
Because humans aren't just individuals maximizing their own stuff. We're deeply social. We find meaning in communities and shared values, traditions. So the economy shouldn't flatten that out. It should allow different groups to organize economic life in ways that fit their values, whether that's more individualistic or more collective.
Okay, so room for diversity.
And social cohesion, keeping society glued together. Plus, the system needs to be adaptive. It has to learn, evolve, and critically, it has to work with our basic human social instincts.
Like fairness and reciprocity.
Exactly. Fairness, reciprocity, our tendency to form in groups. The system shouldn't fight against human nature. It should align with it.
Right. Create conditions where our nature and economic needs work together, not against each other. That feels important. Which leads nicely into step 3, human nature assumptions. What model of us did the AI use?
It used a concept called conditionally cooperative.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means we're basically wired to cooperate, to collaborate, if we trust others will too. But if we feel like we're being taken advantage of, exploited, we switch pretty quickly to competing or just pulling back.
So it's not fixed. We adapt our strategy.
Exactly. It's an adaptive response. And critically, it changes based on how our institutions, our economic rules, are designed. It's not just about individual morality. It's about the signals the system sends.
That's a big departure from assuming everyone's purely selfish or purely altruistic.
Huge. The AI recognized people respond to multiple motivations at once. Yes, material self-interest plays a role, but so do things like social status, loyalty to our group, moral principles, wanting autonomy.
It's a mix.
It's always a mix, and behavioral economics shows the context is crucial for which motivation takes the lead. Anonymous markets might favor self-interest. Small groups with reputations on the line, reciprocity becomes much more powerful.
So the system needs to be smart about context.
Very smart. It needs to deliberately create contexts that activate cooperation, but also have safeguards against those who won't play fair. You can't design for saints. You can't design assuming everyone's a cheat. You design for the reality of human behavior, the whole spectrum, including social norms, our need for agency, our need to belong.
That conditionally cooperative idea really changes things, but the AI also dug into how we handle hierarchy and fairness, right?
It did. It acknowledged that humans naturally organize into hierarchies. That's just a fact of social life and how we distribute resources. But our ideas about fairness are surprisingly flexible.
How so?
Well, think about it. Within a family, fairness often means distribution based on need. Among peers, maybe it means strict equality. In a workplace hierarchy, people might accept unequal outcomes if the process feels legitimate and fair.
So fairness isn't one single thing. It depends on the relationship.
Exactly. It's context dependent. And this ties into what the AI call our strong reciprocity instincts. Meaning, we have this powerful drive to reward people who cooperate and contribute, but also to punish freeloaders, even if it costs us something personally.
Right, that sense of justice.
Yes, the system needs to harness that, not ignore it. And importantly, humans are status-seeking. We just are. But status doesn't have to be just about money.
It could be skill, service.
Skill, service, creativity, knowledge, contribution to the community. The AI argued the economy should create multiple pathways to gain status and recognition, not just piling up material wealth.
Diversifying status. Interesting.
And maybe most profoundly, it recognized humans as meaning-making beings. We need to feel our work, our lives, contribute to something bigger than just our own survival. The economy should enable that sense of purpose.
Okay, that's a rich picture of human nature. So how does the system actually allocate resources? Step 4, resource allocation mechanisms. Who gets what when?
This is where the hybrid idea really comes into play. The AI didn't pick just one mechanism like markets or planning. It proposed matching different mechanisms to different resources and contexts.
Okay, break that down. What are the pieces?
So first, for basic necessities, think food, healthcare, education, basic housing. The proposal is universal access based on need, funded collectively, like a right.
A universal basic services model, essentially.
Pretty much. Then for personal goods and services where your individual preference really matters, entertainment, clothes, travel, that kind of thing. Market mechanisms work well there. They're good at aggregating all those diverse individual wants and preferences efficiently.
Okay, so markets for personal choice items. What about shared resources?
Right, things like water, forests, fisheries, maybe even digital bandwidth, common pool resources. For those, the AI suggests democratic governance by the communities directly affected.
So local control.
Local control. But importantly, operating within clear, science-based limits to prevent overuse. Not just majority rule, but informed stewardship.
Got it. And investment. Big future projects.
That's where participatory planning comes in. Communities collectively decide on investment priorities, what kind of infrastructure, what industries to develop, but using market feedback to check feasibility and likely demand.
Wow. Okay. So it's a real mix and match. Needs-based, markets, democratic governance, planning, all woven together.
Exactly. And the AI's core argument is that one size fits all just doesn't work. It creates huge inefficiencies and injustices. Markets are terrible for public goods or basic rights. Central planning struggles with millions of diverse preferences.
So it's about using the right tool for the right job, institutional diversity?
Precisely. But then the tricky part becomes the boundaries, right? And the transitions between these different systems.
How do you manage the interfaces?
Yeah, because how you allocate something profoundly shapes how people relate to it and each other. Is housing a commodity traded on the market or a basic right allocated by need? Very different social dynamics.
Huge difference.
So the challenge is designing governance structures that manage those boundaries and prevent one logic, especially market logic, from colonizing areas where it doesn't belong, like creeping into basic healthcare or education.
That boundary management sounds critical. Did the AI address any gaps, like global issues?
It did. Two critical gaps it identified were global allocation and crisis response. For global allocation, distributing resources fairly between nations or regions, it talked about frameworks considering historical extraction patterns and current ecological capacity.
So acknowledging history and planetary limits.
Right, maybe some kind of global resource quotas, potentially with tradable rights like carbon credits are supposed to be. But crucially, with floors and ceilings built in to prevent extreme inequality from developing between regions.
Ambitious. And crisis response. Pandemics, disasters.
Yeah, for those shocks, the AI proposed specific emergency protocols that would temporarily override the normal mechanism.
Like what?
Things like rationing essential goods fairly, maybe curtailing non-essential luxury consumption, and importantly, mobilizing mutual aid networks that already exist within communities.
So the system needs to be able to shift gears fast in an emergency.
Very fast, without abandoning its core principles, which means needing buffer stockpiles, spare capacity, redundancy, things that might seem inefficient in normal times.
That trade-off between efficiency and resilience again.
Exactly. Now, obviously, those global quotas need international institutions we don't really have yet.
Yeah.
That's a huge challenge. And crisis protocols have to be designed carefully, clear triggers, automatic sunset clauses so they don't become permanent.
Right, avoiding the temporary becoming forever.
And strong community oversight to prevent them being used for an authoritarian power grab. And those mutual aid networks, they can't just appear in a crisis. They need to be nurtured and part of the social fabric in normal times. Okay, that allocation piece is complex. Let's talk power. Step 5. Power structure design. How do you stop power from concentrating dangerously, but still allow for effective coordination?
This is absolutely crucial. The AI was very clear. Power concentration is inevitable if we don't actively design against it. It doesn't just stay dispersed on its own.
So what's the design principle?
The core idea is creating multiple overlapping systems of accountability instead of relying on single points of control, like just a CEO or just a state ministry.
Okay, multiple checks. Like what?
One key element is stakeholder governance for economic enterprises, businesses, organizations. They shouldn't just answer to shareholders, workers, the local community, customers, and capital providers should all have representation, maybe proportionally to their stake or risk.
So no single group dominates the decision-making.
Right, and for coordinating larger systems, it suggests federated structures, think like Swiss cantons or even the internet itself. Local units keep autonomy, but they delegate specific limited functions upward. Authority is distributed, but they use standardized protocols to interact. Decentralized, but coordinated.
Kind of. Plus, things like counter-majoritarian protections rules to ensure minority viewpoints or interests aren't just ignored in economic decisions and mandatory rotation of leadership roles to prevent people from digging in and accumulating power over decades.
That rotation idea is interesting. And the AI also stressed separating different types of power.
Yes, critically important. The people controlling investment shouldn't also control the flow of information. The people managing day-to-day operations shouldn't be the ones setting the regulations for their sector.
Dividing powers, like in government.
Exactly. The goal isn't to eliminate hierarchy entirely. The AI seemed to think that was unrealistic. It's to create multiple competing hierarchies, each drawing power from different sources and subject to different accountability mechanisms, so they check each other.
Makes sense. But what about informal power? You know, the old boys network, who knows who?
Yeah, the AI acknowledged that too. Those shadow hierarchies based on relationships, information access, cultural capital, they operate alongside the formal structures. The system has to account for their influence, maybe by promoting transparency or diverse networks.
And how does leadership emerge if you're rotating roles?
Good question. The system needs ways for legitimate leadership based on competence, expertise, trust to actually emerge and be recognized. But again, the design focuses on preventing that temporary authority from becoming permanent control.
And technology. Algorithms, data, that's a new power center.
Huge new power center. The AI stressed the need for governance structures that could adapt to tech like AI and big data without getting captured by, a new tech elite, making sure technology serves broad community goals, not just corporate or state interests.
Which brings up the classic problem, enforcement.
Right.
How do you stop powerful people from just ignoring the rules or corrupting the checks and balances?
Always the hard part, isn't it? The AI's answer was redundant enforcement. Multiple layers. Peer monitoring within organizations and sectors. Strong whistleblower protections. And crucially, Economic incentives designed so that breaking the rules, like trying to hoard power, actually becomes costly. You risk losing access to the benefits of the cooperative system, like access to shared resources or networks.
So making cooperation genuinely more advantageous than cheating.
Ideally, yes. And regarding expertise, how do you handle situations where someone really is the expert, like a surgeon? The AI distinguishes between temporary authority based on specific knowledge, the surgeon leads the operation, and permanent control. The surgeon doesn't automatically control the hospital budget.
Influence, not ownership.
Exactly. And preventing knowledge hoarding as a way to maintain power. Information needs to flow. It's about creating a culture supported by rules where cooperation and sharing are rewarded more than domination and secrecy.
Okay, so summing up power. It concentrates unless actively stopped. Solutions involve multiple accountability loops, stakeholder governance, federation, separating power types, and accounting for informal influence and tech.
That's a good summary. It's a dynamic balancing act.
Let's shift gears to step 6, innovation and growth. How does the system drive progress, but without wrecking the planet or society? This seems key.
Absolutely. The AI calls for two fundamental shifts here. First, decoupling innovation from just churning out more stuff, more material throughput. And second, completely redefining what we even mean by growth.
Okay, so what is progress or growth in this model?
Real progress, the AI argues, is improving quality of life with less resource consumption. Think better medicine, hyper-efficient energy, stronger social connections, deeper knowledge, better education. That's growth.
Qualitative growth, not just quantitative.
Exactly. Innovation should be aimed squarely at genuine human needs and well-being, not just manufacturing new desires through marketing. And that competitive drive, it gets redirected towards solving big collective challenges, using things like prizes for breakthroughs, fostering open-source collaboration where everyone builds on each other's work, and mission-oriented research programs. Think, the Apollo program, but for climate solutions or understanding aging or developing better social technologies.
So harnessing innovation for the common good.
And rewarding innovators based on their social impact, not just how much market share they can capture.
And crucially, the AI didn't just focus on tech innovation, did it?
No, that's a great point. It stressed innovation in institutions and social practices just as much. How we organize ourselves, how we make decisions, how we care for each other. That requires innovation too.
And it pointed out that historically, a lot of big breakthroughs actually came from public funding, right?
Yeah, things like the internet, GPS, touch screens. Fundamental research often needs patient public investment because the payoffs are uncertain and far off. Private markets are usually better at refining and scaling things once the basic discovery is made.
So a role for both public and private R&D, but maybe a different balance.
A different balance and a different goal. Growth has to be measured in capabilities, knowledge, well-being, resilience, not just GDP. But the AI also acknowledged that innovation is disruptive.
It creates winners and losers.
Always. It displaces jobs, skills become obsolete. So the framework needs built-in transition support, retraining, income support for people whose livelihoods are affected. It can't just be disrupt and let the chips fall where they may.
So innovation with a social safety net.
And incentives geared toward solutions that work for everyone, not just the early adopters or the well-off. That's where things like open source and commons-based peer production come in again, like Wikipedia or Linux. They show how creativity can absolutely flourish when knowledge flows freely instead of being hoarded behind patents or paywalls.
Creating innovation ecosystems where ideas spread and benefit everyone.
And that's the goal. Sharing knowledge, adapting solutions locally, widely sharing the benefits.
Okay, let's talk resilience. Step 7, crisis and adaptation mechanisms. How does a system handle shocks, pandemics, climate disasters, economic crashes, and evolve without collapsing?
This builds on earlier points. The AI's core message here is, resilience requires redundancy and modularity, not just efficiency optimization.
That efficiency versus resilience trade-off again. What does redundancy look like in practice?
It means having multiple, diverse ways to do essential things, not putting all your eggs in one basket. So diverse food systems, not monocultures, distributed energy grids, not one giant power plant, multiple manufacturing capabilities for critical goods, maybe in different regions.
So if one part fails, others can pick up the slack.
Exactly. And the system needs automatic circuit breakers. Think like financial firewalls, but for all critical systems, food, energy, health. Ways to contain a failure in one area and stop it from cascading through the whole economy.
Isolating problems.
You're right. And it needs both fast and slow adaptation mechanisms. rapid response teams, protocols for immediate crises, but also longer-term structured processes for learning from events and changing the rules in institutions based on that learning.
And it mentioned local self-sufficiency, too.
Yes, for basic needs. Having local capacity for food, water, energy makes communities less vulnerable to disruptions and long supply chains, but that needs to be balanced with global coordination for the really big, complex challenges like climate change.
It's finding that balance. And the AI talked about graceful degradation.
Yeah, I found that concept really interesting. Instead of hitting a cliff edge where everything collapses at once, the system should be designed to shed non-essential functions first when it's under severe stress,
Okay.
while protecting the absolute core needs and values, like a ship jettisoning non-critical cargo in a storm to stay afloat. But this means accepting slightly higher costs or lower efficiency during normal times to maintain that spare capacity and those diverse options.
Paying a resilience premium, essentially.
You could call it that.
Yeah.
And this redundancy isn't just about physical systems, it applies to social systems too. Diverse leadership, multiple ways for information to flow, different traditions of mutual aid that communities can draw on.
But adaptation is hard. We have biases, we overreact or underreact.
True. The AI acknowledged that. Institutions need mechanisms to learn from crises without succumbing to panic or wishful thinking. And critically, crisis response can't become an excuse for a permanent power grab.
Those sunset clauses again?
Automatic return mechanisms, community oversight, absolutely essential. And finally, recognizing that different communities with different cultures and resources will adapt differently. The framework needs to support that diversity and allow for learning between different adaptation strategies, not impose one single response.
Okay, this is all incredibly ambitious. Which brings us to step 8, implementation pathway. How on earth could a system like this actually come about? The AI was clear it shouldn't be a violent revolution, right?
Yes, it insisted the transition has to be gradual and voluntary. No guillotines, no year zero.
So what's the proposed path?
It's really about starting small and scaling up what works, building on things that already exist. Cooperative businesses, municipal ownership programs, like cities running their own broadband, community land trusts that take land off the speculative market.
Expanding the seeds of the new system within the old.
Exactly. Cities or regions could then start piloting the hybrid allocation systems for specific sectors, say housing or local food systems. Worker co-ops could band together, federate into larger networks, and demonstrate that stakeholder governance can actually work at scale.
Proving it works in practice.
That's the key, according to the AI. Proving superior outcomes, better lives, healthier environment, not just winning ideological arguments. The idea is that as these alternatives demonstrate they work better, adoption will spread more organically because people see the tangible benefits.
The AI called this parallel institution building.
Yeah, creating these alternative economic structures alongside the existing ones and then gradually shifting more activity, more resources, more people towards the ones that are performing better according to those broader metrics of well-being and sustainability.
And crises might speed this up.
Potentially. When the old systems visibly fail, like in a financial crash or a climate-related disaster, people become much more open to alternatives that were previously seen as niche or unrealistic. But the AI predicted a long transition, 50, maybe 100 years, uneven, some places leaping ahead, others resisting.
So no waiting for everyone to agree. Start where you can.
Precisely. We need working examples, demonstrating viability, learning by doing.
But surely there'd be resistance. Powerful interests wouldn't just let this happen.
Absolutely not. The AI was realistic about that. Existing power holders, corporations, financial institutions, entrenched political interests, they'll fight back. They'll use legal challenges, economic pressure, lobbying, maybe even disinformation campaigns to crush experiments that threaten their advantages.
So the transition needs protection.
Definitely. It requires things like supportive legal frameworks for cooperatives and commons, new financing mechanisms outside traditional banks, and crucially, building cultural narratives that legitimize these alternatives, that shift what people see as normal or desirable.
And I mentioned a generational aspect.
Yeah, younger generations often being more open to new models. Social movements, often paving the way for institutional change. But it also warned about international pressures.
Like?
A successful region trying this could face undermining tactics through trade rules, financial sanctions, maybe efforts to lure away talent brain drain. Reaching a critical mass might require coordination between multiple pioneering regions.
And those crisis periods, they're opportunities, but also dangers.
Double-edged swords, absolutely.
Yeah.
Openings for positive change, yes. But also fertile ground for authoritarian movements promising easy answers.
Yeah.
So the alternative systems need to be robust enough to navigate both gradual change and sudden shocks or attempts at capture.
Okay, that's the hopeful but challenging path. Now for the reality check. Step 9, stress testing. What are the worst-case scenarios? How could this whole thing go wrong?
The AI didn't shy away from this. The biggest failure mode it identified was fragmentation.
Fragmentate.
Yeah, imagine different regions developing their own versions of adaptive mutualism, but they become incompatible. They can't coordinate on global issues like climate or pandemics. You risk a retreat into competing economic blocks, maybe even resource wars. It undermines the whole cooperative potential.
Okay, that's grim. What else?
Another huge risk is democratic capture. The participatory elements, stakeholder governance, community planning, could be manipulated by highly organized, vocal minorities, or perhaps by technocratic elites who know how to work the system. You could end up with paralysis or decisions that don't reflect the broad community interest.
And the complexity, all those different mechanisms interacting.
That's a vulnerability, too. It could create massive bureaucratic overhead, endless meetings, complex rules nobody understands, and new opportunities for corruption, especially at the boundaries where different systems meet, where market logic interfaces with commons governance, for example.
And during that long transition period you mentioned.
Big danger there. Authoritarian movements could easily exploit the uncertainty, the economic disruption, and promise a return to simple, strong leadership. If the new system doesn't deliver tangible improvements reasonably quickly, people might lose faith and turn back to simpler, even if more brutal, alternatives.
Populist backlash.
Exactly. Plus, outright external sabotage. Existing global powers using their military, financial, or cyber capabilities to actively destroy successful experiments before they can inspire others.
Wow. Okay, any deeper vulnerabilities?
The AI flagged a few more. Just the sheer impossible complexity for ordinary people trying to navigate it. If you constantly have to figure out which rules apply in which situation, it could lead to cognitive overload and disengagement.
People just tune out.
Right.
Yeah.
Then there's potential for cultural backlash. If the system's values, say, prioritizing contribution over accumulation, clash too strongly with deeply held identity values around work, success, or tradition, it could provoke strong resistance.
The scale mismatch problem.
Yeah. Does what works in a small city scale up to a nation or continent? Maybe not. Resource scarcity is another trigger. If basic resources become genuinely scarce due to climate change or depletion, does the cooperative framework hold, or does it fracture back into zero-sum competition?
Yeah, unexpected tech disruption.
Could throw a huge wrench in the works. Imagine advanced AI, genetic engineering, access to space resources. These could reshape economic fundamentals faster than the adaptive institutions can keep up.
Okay.
And maybe the most insidious risk
Go on.
is that the system succeeds in its main goals, but unintentionally creates new forms of inequality, new ways for some groups to be excluded or disadvantaged. Every system produces winners and losers. The question is whether adaptive mutualism's built-in safeguards can evolve fast enough to catch and correct these emergent problems.
Okay, that's a sobering list of potential pitfalls. So finally, step 10, final integration, bringing it all together. What are the absolute essentials, the core DNA of this adaptive mutualism?
The core principle is contextual coordination. Using different economic tools in different contexts, with clear rules and democratic governance managing the boundaries and interactions between them.
Right, the hybrid approach. What are the key institutions?
You need universal basic services for necessities. You need stakeholder-governed enterprises for most production. You need community-managed commons for shared resources. And you need federated planning structures for large-scale coordination and investment. Those are the pillars.
And the key roles, like the constitution of this economy.
No concentration of multiple types of power, economic, political, informational, in the same hands. Mandatory rotation of leadership. Open source knowledge sharing as the default. And automatic sunset clauses for any emergency powers. Those are non-negotiable.
And the allocation algorithm, how it decides who gets what.
It's about matching the mechanism to the resource. Need-based for basics. Preference-based markets for personal goods, democratic deliberation for commons and future investments. But all of this operates within hard ecological limits, enforced through things like resource quotas and requirements for regenerative practices. The environment isn't an externality, it's the foundation.
So the whole system deliberately chooses redundancy over just chasing efficiency.
Yes.
Adaptation over trying to optimize for one static goal.
Right.
And it actively protects that institutional diversity against any one logic taking over.
Exactly. Success isn't just GDP. It's measured by human capability expansion, ecological health, social cohesion. It's fundamentally a post-growth economy focused on qualitative improvement, not endless material expansion.
And what holds it all together? What makes it work culturally?
That's crucial. It relies on widespread economic literacy. People need to understand how the system works to participate effectively. It needs social norms that value contribution, cooperation, and long-term thinking over short-term gain and domination.
A different value set.
A significantly different value set. Integration happens through those nested governance councils, linking local action with regional and global needs. Those circuit breaker mechanisms are vital for stability. Technology development is guided by commons, principles, and community oversight, especially for powerful algorithms. And enforcement. It relies more on peer monitoring, graduated sanctions, and ultimately the risk of being excluded from the cooperative benefits if you persistently break the rules, rather than just top-down policing.
And it has ways to evolve.
Yes, built-in constitutional protections for that institutional diversity, and mechanisms for automatically reviewing and adapting the rules based on real-world outcomes and feedback. It's designed to learn.
Adaptive mutualism. An economy based on reciprocal cooperation, evolving contextually, focused on human flourishing within planetary limits, neither market-dominated nor state-dominated.
But a metasystem, one that deploys multiple tools strategically depending on the scale, the relationships involved, the nature of the resource. It's a fundamentally different architecture.
Wow, what a journey unpacking this AI blueprint. It's a lot to take in. For me, the really striking things are that blend of mechanisms, the deep focus on designing with human nature, not ignoring it, and that constant active design against power concentration.
It really is fascinating, isn't it? How this AI perspective, coming without our usual human baggage, challenges so many of our ingrained assumptions about what an economy is and should be. That shift away from just endless material growth towards flourishing within limits, it feels profound.
So the thought to leave you with today is this. If artificial intelligence, looking at the problem fresh, consistently points towards this kind of multi-institutional, context-sensitive, fundamentally cooperative economic future, what does that imply about our own paths forward? What might we be missing in our current debates, stuck in old arguments?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We definitely encourage you to keep thinking about these complex, absolutely vital ideas. Thanks for listening today. 4 recurring narratives underlie every episode: boundary dissolution, adaptive complexity, embodied knowledge, and quantum-like uncertainty. These aren't just philosophical musings, but frameworks for understanding our modern world. We hope you continue exploring our other podcasts, responding to the content, and checking out our related articles at helioxpodcast.substack.com.